Hello, my name is Coach Potato. In this video, I decided to put my coach hat on. Unfortunately, I won't be able to play in the first Dynamic Deck tournament coming up, but I wanted to give some of my thoughts on the unique game style and some of the changes that the players should expect. So let's jump right into it. So, what are dynamic decks? Dynamic decks are a new randomized deck that MetaZoo is introducing. It comprises of 50 randomized non-foil cards from each of the three sets that have been released so far. Base set, Torrential Tides, Secret Shadows. It also includes 4 booster packs. It's unclear on exactly how these 50 cards will be selected, if it's from the entire pool. I anticipate that it's going to be narrowed down to a couple of interchangeable aura types to make it easier for the players to create, if they want, a full 50 card deck or a smaller deck if they prefer. Also giving flexibility on one aura versus 2 aura, so we'll see what they actually do. I also expect that those booster packs will coincide with the majority of the aura type within the randomized decks. For example, if the random deck selected has a lot of dark aura cards, I expect the booster packs to skew more toward the Secret Shadows. Same thing for the um, torrential tides. I would expect more, sorry, also for water, I expect more torrential tides booster packs to be added in. Uh, let's jump to the rules. The dynamic deck rules are slightly different. Uh, First thing we should cover is that 3 copy limit is no longer applicable. So you can have as many copies of a single type of card as long as you drew them within your 50 random cards or within your 4 included booster packs. I think this could be huge. Really increase your odds of drawing a specific type of card. Um, the starter terror, you can add the starter terror that you use within your deck itself. Could be interesting combinations with that one, not too much. I think one of the big ones, though, is going to be the minimum deck size. Normal games have minimum deck size of 50. This is a minimum deck size of 25 cards. I honestly think this is probably going to be the biggest difference between the top tier, the people who place higher within that tournament and lower in the tournament, are the ones that likely take advantage or use this mechanic. If you're going to do a standard 50 card deck, because of all of those random cards, you probably will not be able to have more of a consistency. If you end up playing that type of style, I would highly recommend adding in cards that have Discover. So you can go through and adapt better within the for the player that you're playing against. But really, I would lean toward making a smaller deck. I was trying to start crunching the numbers. I don't know exactly how small you can go, but 25 cards might be doable. You just need to remember, if you cannot draw, if your main deck, yeah, if you need a draw and your main deck is empty, you lose the game. So uh, there's going to be a trade-off. The lower amount of cards that you use, the more likely you're going to get those combinations and those high powerful cards in the game. For example, if you have, if the game runs up to getting 10 aura, you have your 10th aura out in the game, and so you're in the late game stages. You would have drawn 14 cards total, including your starting hand, without any extra drawing power. 14 cards, if you have a 25 card deck, or even let's say a 30 card deck, you're pretty much drawing half of your cards within your deck. Most games, from what I was looking at, don't seem to be going more than what, like even 5 to 10 rounds beyond that 10 aura like limit. So I think you might be safe within even that 30 card, a smaller deck, to really take advantage of drawing those key cards that you want. Again, though, it is a little bit of a gamble. If a player sees that, they could, especially with like water or even dark with its steel capability, if those decks slow the game down, smart players could take advantage of that and try to burn through the other player's deck and win off of that win condition. So that's something I would keep an eye out for too. If your opponent has a really small deck and you're playing with a bigger one, and you can slow down that game, might be an interesting way to win. So that's the biggest difference, in my opinion, from the game styles. Let's see. Um, Okay, casters. You can only have one caster. This pretty much makes sense. One thing I would do is, since you are creating your deck, um, when you open your deck, depending on what combinations you have, I would highly recommend looking at other people's decks. See what type of aura or what type of casters they're leaning toward. Certain combinations will be very effective against those type of casters. For example, if if a vast majority look like they're leaning toward fire, there are counters to that, and it could be advantageous to look around and see what other players are doing. Just take a quick second, see what they're doing, and then adjust accordingly. I don't know if that's that big of a deal. The problem is in the beginning, you have odds of playing a wide variety. So I would just try to pick a deck combination that works best for the cards that are dealt, but just something to keep in mind if like the the other decks skew heavily one way, it could be a good strategy. The tarot cards, I'm going to skip that one. That one's pretty basic. I would recommend reading all these rules. The win conditions a little bit different. The primary win condition, the secondary win conditions are still the same. Um, it's not the first to 30. It is once the players reach 30 points. At the end of that, whenever a player reaches 30 points, at the end of that round, whoever has the most points wins. If there's a tie after that round, it will go into a bonus round to try to see who wins that tie break. Um, One thing I do want to stress is um, for the game format, it says single game matches, best of one, which I anticipate this tournament will be a best of one. Um, the final round might be a best of three. We'll see what they do. But this is the key. Players will remake their decks between games for dynamic deck play. I think this is going to be huge. So take a look. The first round, I would probably recommend just build a good solid deck. And then when you finish your deck, look at those other individuals. If you won, look at those other individuals that also won. You're more likely to get matched up with them. And start thinking about adjusting your deck accordingly to the matchups that you're going to see down the road. This also states that you can remake your deck between games. So if the final round is actually a best of three games, I anticipate that you're playing the same player in between those games. You could actually adjust your deck based off of your opponent's deck. That's where this rule would really come into play. So when you're building your deck, set cards aside that you can adjust based off of your the matchups that you're going to anticipate. I don't know if you will have insight into your next matchup and what caster they're playing with, um, or even if you can completely switch out your caster if you end up drawing another caster. That'd be a very interesting tactic as well. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, again, if I was playing in this tournament, I have never seen the dynamic decks. I don't know exactly what they look like, but based off of the description of the of what's in the decks themselves and the rules, the main keys, in my opinion, would be I would decrease my deck um, My total number of cards within my deck closer to that 25. That 25 makes me super nervous. Um, I feel like you might be walking the line a little bit too much, but like even the 30 to 40 range, I think would be probably pretty comfortable. And then your probability and your odds of pulling those high level cards like increase significantly. And then keep an eye out on adjusting your deck between games. Those two things I think are going to be the key to winning the dynamic deck tournament. So I hope these help you. Let me know if they did, and then once I get my hands on the dynamic decks, I'll add in more insights later. But good luck to those playing in the tournament.